photograph together. Make sure you get a few of your daughter's album, you know. I think we'll allow a couple of minutes for photographs and then perhaps a few more, but if it gets in the way, we'll ask them to withdraw, right? What are we talking about now?
Make sure you get a few photographs.
That's right. Eh? You wish, yes. One at a time. Yes, of course. All right. Now then.
It's live, apparently, both on radio.
Yes, and would it be possible if some in the front could move down, because I can't see those who might be want to ask questions, if there are any questions. Is there somebody moving with a mic? Because I can't see those at the back because of television in the middle. There's a big announcement coming, start with this, a big announcement coming this evening of a new Under-Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs because of the additional burden on the Foreign and Commonwealth Office in preparation for the presidency of the European Council and Council of Ministers next year and the hosting of the Commonwealth Conference in London. And I mustn't break the embargo, which I gather is for 5 o'clock. Actually, I can do anything I want now, but my honourable friend here, my parliamentary private secretary, will be occupying that post. Well, that's really all I got to say, except a short statement. I have very little to add to the statement I made to the Cabinet, together with the further notes that you have already received. I've set out the reasons very clearly, and the fact that I decided to take this action many months ago for those reasons. As to the precise timing, I would draw your attention to my references to this unique moment between the acceptance of the counter-inflation policy announced in July last year and the timetable for discussions directed to agreement on a new policy this summer. I have described it as being on a hinge now between the acceptance of last July's policy and the negotiation of a new policy. And had I delayed further, for example, gone in the spring, that timetable could have been prejudiced by people's minds being diverted, and also by the fact that this would have happened at a time when the union conferences and so on were happening. I hope, therefore, it is not necessary for me to spend too much time on some of the speculative reasons I find have already been advanced since 11:30 this morning, speculative reasons which bear no relation to the facts. For example, my decisions bear no relation to recent events such as those in Parliament last week. The timetable had been decided and confirmed well before then. And indeed, today's Cabinet, unusual on a Tuesday, had been put on the list of Cabinet meetings a fortnight ago for this reason. Furthermore, although this is not from me, I heard on the radio from the court correspondent that today's, what I knew, confirmation that today's audience had been arranged some time ago. But I do want to say, you naturally do that one, yeah. I'm touched by some expressions I've heard and read about my state of health. I am as fit now as I was 20 years ago, but carrying rather less weight. And my regular medical checks by my doctor confirm the fact, I understand he's gone on the record today, that I'm as fit as a flea. Nevertheless, I know how solicitous my friends can be, especially my friends in the press. about my state of health. And I'm deeply touched and moved. 2.5 years ago, I had a little knee trouble, which was diagnosed as fluid on the knee. This gave rise to a slight limp, which was perceived. On the Saturday, the Lord President of the Council was telephoned by the representative of an eminent Sunday newspaper, asking him to confirm that I had had a stroke. As it happened, the Lord President knew the exact gravity of my state of health and said slightly inaccurately, though it was on the right lines, that I had housemaid's knee. You all remember the first chapter of Three Men in a Boat. But the anxieties and solicitude on the parts of my friends in the press persisted. Within a few weeks, my office were telephoned as one inquirer after another asked, in suitably funereal tones, about what they had heard about me on the basis of impeccable evidence, namely that I had had 2 coronaries, 3 cerebral hemorrhages, leukemia, lung cancer, and indeed cancer in other less mentionable parts of the anatomy. And then there was another anxiety. I think this was a separate event, namely when someone saw me putting on in the car, as I always do, a pair of glasses I bought in 1958. Quick. And this led to intimations of approaching blindness. So I do hope that your solicitude, which touches me greatly, will perhaps now be set aside. I am very fit, and this is not anything to do with the reasons for my statement. So I think I can fairly state that the real reasons for my statement today are considered worthy of serious political comment. In order to help that, could I ask if there is anyone who would like to put a question before you get on to questions about the new Foreign Office appointment? Mr. Charlton.
Prime Minister, I imagine people are almost shocked by this announcement that you've made today. And there are
Can you speak up a bit? Why aren't any microphones? However, go on.
Well, I'll shout, sir.
Shout, yes.
People, I think, are probably very shocked by this announcement today. It was totally unexpected. And there are so many doubts and uncertainties in the country at the present time about the position the country is in, the people must be concerned or feel some uneasiness at the timing of your decision. So what do you say to allay the fears of those who may feel some disquiet and unease that you have chosen this particular time to go?
Well, the main reason why they're shocked is that they didn't get onto it, isn't it? The main reason they're shocked is there wasn't a leak. But I repeat, when we came into office 2 years ago, I said to a number of people who will verify this, that I didn't intend to stay for more than 2 years. Even in the summer of 1974, I said I wouldn't stay beyond Party Conference 75. And that was my target date. In the event I didn't, because of the problems of voting a new leader when the House wasn't sitting. Christmas I thought of, again there was the same problem of a long recess. And although my 60th birthday is no more significant to me than any other, I decided to do it in March, which was just about the 2-year limit I had set. You will know that from my statement that the Queen was informed last December the 9th, of the exact date I had in mind. It was last week, but there were by-elections on. And you will have heard in the House this afternoon that Mr. Speaker confirmed that I had told him about it also last autumn. Naturally, I have wrestled with the problem of timing, Michael, ever since. I've referred to by-elections and things of that kind. But the decisive question for me was, as I've said, many things within the economy are now improving, as in my statement, even the moderation in the rise in the rate of unemployment. And furthermore, the anti-counter-inflation policy is fully accepted by the country, and I do not want to interfere by a leadership election with the vitally important negotiations which will start on the budget and will be continuous right through to the summer. Those are the reasons. Go on, Michael, you want to supplement?
I was only saying, sir, that you have presided with such skill and persuasion over the affairs of this country for so long, and those skills have been indispensable to taking the country through many difficulties. Do you say that your departure at this time will not prove any obstacle to an improvement in the country's position? And do you see it in some way as perhaps helping that process?
It could well do so. I think it's be good to get a fresh look at these problems by a new leader. The one thing I have always rejected in politics is the doctrine of indispensability of a particular leader. I have never thought I was indispensable. This is a view that's been shared by some of my colleagues over the years, though they're more united now. It's a view that has been almost unitedly shared by the press over many years. But they are being very kind now. And I've taken the same view about leaders of the Conservative Party over the years. Once a person is considered indispensable, I believe that's a real threat to democracy. Yeah.
There seem to be bitter divisions, if I can put it that way, inside your party at the moment over several major issues. In the past, you've always been seen as a healer of those divisions. Are you really confident that this is the best time for you to go at this particular moment?
Yes, I think in fact, despite the headlines of last week, and I'm not complaining about the headlines, they were justified, and indeed I played my part in creating headlines last week. It was all over by Friday. It was all after Thursday. It was all quite peaceful again. I don't really see a problem there. We did have a turbulent week. I had an extremely interesting birthday last Thursday, and I don't think it is necessary after that for me to, continue to stay there as a kind of doctor or healer. There are many other of my colleagues who could do it equally well. Well, I could, but I was summarizing briefly in that section of my statement some of the achievements. I haven't put out all the achievements, obviously, in such a statement, but I believe this is true. I have made speeches, including my speech, you said New Society, didn't you? My speech to the National Council of Social Services last December. I would refer you to that. We haven't gone as far as we would like, and these are tough economic times, but we've made great improvements. And what I said today about the improvement in the social services in this statement, I think, justifies that. I wonder if we could have a little piece now on the clicking of cameras, because I can hardly hear. There must have been more camera film shot this afternoon than will ever appear in the press. Now, could we have quietness, because I can't hear, and I want to have the chance of hearing people, particularly from the back. Now, enough, I think enough now.
In your statement, you mentioned that in September you were close to resigning, but changed your mind again because of the importance of fighting against.
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear that.
In September, in your statement, you said you were close to making a decision then, but changed it because of the importance of the fight on inflation.
Yeah.
Now we have a situation where the world currencies are in some turmoil, including the pound. And as you also pointed out in your statement, the budget is only 3 weeks away.
Yeah.
Is there not some danger that this might raise question marks abroad again? Because one doesn't quite know what the next budget might be, who will introduce it, and who will be in prime minister?
No. Well, I don't think there is that danger. I can't disclose what I think will be in the budget, though of course the budget speech isn't finally written. It will be introduced by the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and I don't think there's any problem about that, and I don't think it will create anxieties. Everyone knows that the budget will be a determinant, budget speech has been said, will be a determinant in the negotiations which follow on incomes policy. And since there is a slight lull on the negotiations of incomes policy waiting for the budget, this is a good time for me to do what I'm doing. The best possible choice within the parliamentary party, for whom I shall vote, but I shall vote by secret ballot. Otherwise, wait till you read the press tomorrow, then you'll know. I may say when I stood for the leadership, they got me right next morning. But it was an anxious time. Gentleman on the right, standing up with glasses.
Mr. Wilson, was there any family pressure at all that caused your resignation? Was there a kind of a feeling you should spend a little more time with your grandchildren, with your wife, and so forth?
No, that's another red herring I've read something about, but not for a long time. But yes, I had a very pleasant weekend. I enjoyed my grandchildren's birthday even more than I enjoyed my own, and my own was exhilarating. But I thought Jeremy Thorpe put that very well in his question in Parliament today. No pressure at all. I decide these things. Is there anybody at the back? I can't see. Let me... Yes, over there. Oh yes, Paddy. It looks like Paddy at this distance. Is it? Is it Paddy?
Fight the next election.
What?
You intend to fight the next election?
Yes, but not as leader of the party. I shall fight it if my constituents will put up with me. I think they will. I shall certainly fight the next election. I've made it clear today I'm staying in Parliament. I want to spend more time as a parliamentarian and as a constituency member, because in 30 years on the front bench, you know, it does mean you can't do quite as much as you like to for your constituency. And if they'll put up with me, and I think they will, yeah, I hope so, I better not report that, yes, I shall fight it. I'll still be quite young, you know. 1979. Julia?
Prime Minister, is it important for the sake of the country that the choice of your successor should be made quickly? The
Yes.
parliamentary party are considering now perhaps whether it can be done within a week. Would you like to see it done within a week?
I've been asked if I'd repeat the questions because of what is being filmed and recorded. And Julian Haviland said it's in the interest of the country we get a quick decision on the successor. Can it be done within a week? This must be a matter for the parliamentary party to arrange the elections. I met the chairman of the parliamentary party, the secretary of the parliamentary party, together with the leader of the House and the chief whip this morning after my statement to Cabinet, and I emphasised to them, and they fully take the point, what is said in my statement, that I hope we can get away from the leisurely system we've had in the past of one vote a week until everybody's eliminated. And so I hope it will be as quick as possible, as quick as is compatible with full consideration.
Can I just follow that up? Do you think there could and should be a new Prime Minister in Downing Street by Thursday week, then?
I think that it will be done as quickly as can be done, provided one gives adequate time for the party to consider it. But there is a party meeting this evening, 6 o'clock, when the liaison committee will put their proposals for reconciling the need for full consideration and consultation with the need for all possible speed. Mr. Roth.
There is probably no precedent of any Prime Minister giving a press conference immediately after announcing his resignation. Can I ask two questions, and I hope you'll answer at least one of them? What in your Prime Ministership, what mistakes you may have made, do you regret most? And the corollary, what will give you the most pleasure and pride and satisfaction to think back on?
Well, there are people here. The question is, what in my period as Prime Minister are the mistakes I most regret, and what are the things that give me more pride? I think, I know you have plenty of time, you always had, but there are people here who've got to go away and report what's been said. It would be a very long answer to both halves of the question.
Aidan Hennigan, Irish Press.
Sorry,
Aidan Hennigan, Irish Press. Mr. Powell congratulated you indirectly in comments this afternoon on your policy in Northern Ireland. Are you happy at the moment with it, or what further would you like to be done there?
About what?
Your policy in Northern Ireland.
Yes, what about it?
Mr. Powell congratulated you indirectly on it today. Would you like to see some improvement, or what would you like to see happen there in the future?
Well, I would stand on the answer I gave today to Mr. Powell. I think Mr. Powell meant what he said as being friendly. I think he supports the direct rule proposition announced by the Secretary of State last week. Where I couldn't agree with him was his condemnation of the policy of the previous government and the previous policy of our government until the breakdown of power sharing. Therefore, I felt it necessary to emphasise that we had supported the policy of Mr. Whitelaw, just as he had supported our policy until the breakdown of power sharing.
Mr. Wilson, what led you to decide 2 years ago that 2 more years was enough?
Well, I thought it would be, and I've been proved right. But in fact, the last 2 years have been more exciting and more productive than my previous 5 3/4 years. And of course, we have now got, as I said, a very talented cabinet. I thought that because I could leave it all to them, I'd have more time off. On the contrary, I've had less time off. That Labrador of mine, who is still Labrador Retriever, which is still in cartoons, still unfortunately drawn as half grown, though he's 9 years old. Poor devil has only had about 3 walks down to the pub, where he likes going, on Saturdays or Sundays this year. It is a very, very full-time job, even though I'm leaving so much more to my colleagues. But I thought 2 years would be about right. But also remember, this now brings me to a very long period as Prime Minister, as well as leader of the party. And I think the party and the country will gain by a fresh approach undertaken by someone, presumably be a member of the present cabinet, who will fully support and continue the anti-inflation and anti-unemployment policies on which we're engaged.
Well, the Prime Minister expanded on the rather interesting fourth reason he gave for his decision, namely that when one's been in a job for a long time, there's a tendency not to give the fresh consideration to a talent problem which may occur in different circumstances because one has taken a decision before.
This is a view I formed when I was a very young civil servant. You know, you look at a particular problem and then you turn it down next time. I say I hope I haven't succumbed to it, but it is a thing. I hadn't any particular policy in mind. There is a danger of saying I've been here before. And I'm sorry, Harry, that at question time today they even had to drag you into it. Hope you agreed with my answer. Gentleman just to the right of Harry.
Prime Minister, are there any circumstances under which you might stand for election for your dear party?
None at all. I never was ambitious, and I still am not. Yes? This sounds like Ian, is it Ian? Yes, I can't see. Where are you, Ian?
I wanted looking forward and using the intuition.
You have to shout, Ian, I'm afraid.
Whether you can say, when you think that your successor will be chosen on grounds of personality and character, or by ideology in the party?
Oh, as I said, I'm not going to interfere in the matter. I think no, I would be by unsinful. I think that every MP, and they're all elected serious people, when they put their cross on the ballot paper, will decide it on everything they consider relevant. I can imagine people. We are rather a broad church in the Labour Party, as you will have heard recently. Like the Tory Party, they're a broad church, well, 2 churches probably. But we're a broad church, and some people will decide, I won't vote for old so-and-so because he's too right-wing, left-wing, centre-wing, whatever it is. Others will say, I want the man who can take the decisions. I want the man who can keep cool when the going's rough. So they'll all have different motives, and I'm sure it'll produce the right answer. The gentleman there with his hand by the camera.
If you are asked by your colleagues, Prime Minister, will you tell them who your choice would be if you are asked by your colleagues?
You mean my cabinet colleagues? No.
All your colleagues in here.
No, I told the Cabinet this morning I shall vote by secret ballot, and I shall not take any action or say anything to try and influence a single Member of Parliament in his vote.
But surely, I appreciate your reason for that, but surely you would have a unique chance to judge the quality of the men who served under you.
Yes, but I don't believe, I believe in selection by election, not by nomination, and I don't believe in a kind of dynastic system of succession.
Prime Minister, will your decision affect some way the arrangement for upcoming basic tools by the Soviet Foreign Minister Gromyko?
Prime Minister what?
Soviet Foreign Minister.
Oh, it will not interfere with that at all, and I look forward to entertaining him at Downing Street. I have made clear that I shall work just as hard from now until my successor is appointed as I have done at any other time, and I look forward to entertaining Foreign Minister Gromyko to lunch sometime in the middle of next week, and to have substantive talks with him. There's a gentleman just behind you that...
Prime Minister, would you comment on the view that you are leaving behind a united party that will not return to the quarrelling of the early 50s?
Am you leaving behind me a united party that what? Will not return to what?
The quarrelling of the early 50s, the bickering of the early 50s.
We have had much less quarrelling of late, though we always get fully reported if two people express different views. I think we are much more united. And of course the early 50s, in which I played some little and interesting part, and I hope that what I said then did find acceptance later, but we've moved on. The problems of today are very different from those of the 1950s. And the world has changed. The problems are vastly greater than they even appeared at that time. No, there'll be no return to that, because I think whoever leads the party will want to keep the party united and to take account of all strands of opinion, as I have tried to do. Anybody else? I can't.
Do you have...
one right at the back there.
Do you think the two-party system will continue as it is now with the growth of the Scotch Nats and the Welsh and other minority parties?
I don't think
Are we
that.
in for a coalition?
I don't think that arises out of my decision today. I don't know whether one talks about a two-party system. There are other parties. In a sense, any modern party must be a coalition of strands of opinion. Mine certainly is. The Conservatives certainly are. But there's nothing that's happened in recent years which, to my mind, justifies pressure for an inter-party coalition. I believe it will be a recipe for failure to take decisions and shabby compromises.
Do you think that the era of what some have called utopian corporatism, for instance in the recent Sunday Times after the departure of Mr. Brandt, even Mr. Heath, and now you, has come to an end? And do you feel, including Mr. Contact, then what precautions have you arranged to prevent a government behind the government to take on responsibility for shaping anti-inflation policies made on an authoritarian Friedmanite basis?
I did miss the first few years, words. The years of what have come to an end?
The
Years of something.
Of utopian corporatism.
Utopian what?
Corporatism.
No, I think that's a slogan. I welcome to see your book when you've written it on this subject, but it's not a concept I understand. And the retirement of Willy Brandt, Mr. Heath and myself was not in any way associated with that fascinating but to me incomprehensible concept.
But the answer about Friedmanite policies?
Friedmanite policies, well, we're against them, aren't we? And about half the Conservative policy are against them as well. Anybody who hasn't put a question? Have you put a question?
I have already put a question, Prime Minister. May I put another one to you, sir?
Yes, if I don't see anybody else, all right.
For Independent Radio News again. So you've been called in past tributes the most agile politician of your generation. How do you feel about that kind of label?
I've been called the most fragile politician. Agile, sorry. Well, anybody who lives in the era of Harold Macmillan would be willing to yield the palm to him. No, not immediately. Not immediately, it'll be a long time. I certainly intend to do a bit of writing, not in competition with any of you gentlemen. I know when I'm beat in matters like that, and I haven't the imagination that you've got. But what I would like to do over a period of time, I did start some work when in opposition, is to think about the things I've learnt in, as I say, 30 years on the front bench, experience of top politicians even before that, about the real issues of government and the Constitution, and over a period of time try to set it on paper. But I'm not in a hurry, so don't worry.
Very good book. Are you happy to go?
I'm happy to be among my friends. This afternoon, in my statement, referring to the press, I said, I forgive you all. And you'll all know that was pinched from what Nye Bevan said at a party conference. No, I'm not happy to go. It's a sad moment in many ways. But you do feel a certain relief at the burden falling off your shoulder. As I say, a 7-day-a-week burden. Particularly if you're confident that your successor will pick up that burden and carry out his duties in a fresh and interesting way, without changing the basic policy. Could we stop the photographs for a moment, because we can't hear the lady.
I asked if members of your family went to the host this afternoon.
My sister was there. No, I don't think Mrs. Wilson was there. She's got other engagements this afternoon. But my sister, who came from Cornwall, not for my birthday, I assure you, but for her own on the 12th and the twins on the 13th, and was persuaded to stay on when she heard what was happening today. She was up there. I haven't yet heard whether she was edified by what happened or not.
Prime Minister, how do you account for the strength of the German Deutschmark and the weakness of the pound? And do you think that the European concept of monetary union is actually ever going to come about?
On the first part of the question, how do I account for the strength of the Deutschmark and the weakness of sterling? There are other currencies that are having a difficult time at the moment, of course. And do I think the concept of European and monetary union will ever come about? On the first part of the question, actually you tempt me now to write a book. It would be a very long answer, and it goes back 30 years because of what happened after the war. The German factories had been bombed and they were rebuilt in a modern form with generous American assistance. The British factories still had machinery, as I've often seen, touring them, going back literally to the 19th century. Since then, they have been more export-oriented, above all, more investment-orientated than we have. It's a long history, and in my statement I refer to the fact that under this government, in 2 years, we are starting to emphasize sectoral approaches, microeconomic approaches, rather than the macroeconomic lurches and so on. But it's a very long story of industrial history. The second thing is, of course, that if the rate of inflation is higher in one country than another, that does create problems for the parity, and we have made clear our position. I did in my statement in Parliament last Thursday night, and so has the Chancellor of the Exchequer. On the European and Monetary Union and the possibility of it, I commented on this a great deal during the referendum campaign. I think I quoted The Economist referring to it as some kind of mythical bird they didn't expect ever to fly. I wouldn't go as far as that. But I don't think the prospect of an early EMU has exactly been advanced in the last 72 hours. Any more haven't put questions? I think we're nearly through. Mr. Ross, pronounce the benediction.
Prime Minister, as about your self-denying ordinance that you will not take part in the election, other than from that self-denying ordinance, do you intend to take an active part in that coalition, which is the Labour Party? maybe inside a Tribune group again or some other part? Will you play an active political part inside that coalition?
I shall be an active backbencher, looking after the interests of my constituents. I shall not join any group, and I have made it clear I will not accept ministerial office. But if the Prime Minister wants my help in any way, he's only to ask for it, and I shall support him, particularly when the going's rough. Particularly, perhaps, though I know it'll never happen in the future, if he was subject to criticism which I regarded as unfair. Or there's still one more then. This is the last now.
Mr. Prime Minister, you referred to Nye Bevan during the course of what you were saying, and you also referred to the...
Little louder, please. Could we stop this? Now, you must have enough photographs. I'd like to think that 1% of them will be printed.
You said in your statement this morning that the new leader of the party should remember the party is in the country and not in Smith Square or the House of Parliament. Are you in fact worried that during the course of your prime ministership, many people would say the Labour Party has lost any real contact with socialism, or the last measures of the cuts did in fact represent the final abandonment of socialism within the Labour Party?
I think I got it all, and I repeat it for the benefit of those who may not have heard it, that he says that this morning I said it's the party in the country, not Parliamentary Party or Smith Square, Transport House. That is true. My contact has always been, over very, very many years, with the party in the country, and I used to know every agent by his Christian name, not about 20 years ago, not all of them now. Does this mean I think the party's lost contact with socialism? By no means. There will be those who say we have, because in a broad church such as ours, we do have, as you may have noticed, theologians. And theologians, by their nature, are sometimes a little assertive that their theology is the only theology. And they will say that the only socialism is the socialism which they preach, and indeed practice. But I think that what I understand by socialism has been greatly advanced by the 4 administrations that I've had the privilege to head. And this will continue, I have no doubt at all, under my successor. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.